So, without further ado, I would like to tell you a little bit about Lakewood, the Lakewood that I see every day. The theme tonight is progress under pressure. And we're going to explore these themes in some detail, although I'm going to skip across the top of some pretty big ideas. And so we're not going to dig very deep into details here. I would very much enjoy questions, comments, and concerns at the conclusion of my remarks tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. Progress. Well, I can't help but think about the story of the two moose hunters. Now, these two moose hunters chartered this plane to take them back into the deep woods of northern Canada. And they dropped themselves off, this plane dropped them at this little dock in this small little lake. And the pilot said, now look, remember, I'm going to be here 3 days hence, and I have just capacity with this small lake to carry one moose carcass out of here. So 3 days' time, we'll be here, one moose carcass. So 3 days pass, plane comes in for landing. Standing at the dock are the moose hunters, two of them, with two moose carcasses. The pilot gets out and says, now look, I told you folks that we could only have enough capacity to carry one moose carcass off this short lake. And the hunter said, well, you know, our pilot last year, he was a pretty good pilot, and he didn't have any concerns whatsoever. And we really wonder about your reputation and your integrity here, and frankly, we think you should be able to carry these two out of here, just like the pilot did last year. The pilot, being worried about his reputation, against his better judgment, said, all right. So they strapped the moose carcasses onto the pontoons, back off to the very edge of the lake, take off down the lake, lift off, hit the first level of trees, barely clear them, hit the second, start clipping them, hit the third level of trees, didn't make it. Down goes the plane, moose antlers everywhere, passengers scattered about in the moss. The one moose hunter shakes his head, looks around, tries to figure out where they are. His friend also gathers himself together and says, geez, where are we? And the first moose hunter says, well, it looks like we're about 40 yards further than last year. So we're making good progress here in Lakewood, learning from our lessons as we move ahead. I want to talk a little bit about the housing initiative. You know how important that is for Lakewood. We have 13,000 one- and two-family homes, almost all of them built prior to 1920. Well, about half built prior to 1920, the rest built generally before 1939. And of course, we came off a pretty rugged housing marketplace. And the question was, what's the state of our housing, knowing how important it is and what we should do about it. We identified 1,700 of the 13,000 that needed serious attention. And we're very pleased to report today that 800 of those 17 made significant advancements. They no longer are classified as the threes and have moved to the ones and twos. That leaves 900 that are still before us. And this year we're very focused on the remaining 900 and look forward to making very good headway as well. Although I will tell you that's very challenging and hard work. The commercial development, I think you just walk out these doors and you get a sense of the pace that happened over the last several years, but particularly we picked up dramatic pace last year. $22 million in private investment last year, exceeded our expectations. New businesses included Eddie and Eddie's, the World of Beer, all 500 beers. How many have had a chance to get started on that journey? Vosh, Helvetica, KB Confections took over an old greenhouse. CVS opened up last spring. Taco Tantos took over the Bella Dubbies. GV Art and Design opened their studios here. Quaker Steak and Lube, of course, opened last year, and Gypsy Bean down at the Beck Center. Additionally to new establishments moving in, we have a revigoration of some of the current infrastructure here. To our right, to my right, your left, the Kaufman Park Plaza, we know was totally remade. About a $4 or $5 million reinvestment there. McDonald's opened up, moved from Sloan. Nature's Bin is, of course, establishing into the old McDonald's. The Root Cafe got a new facade. Cotton, which was the old Congressman Kucinich offices, is opening up into a retail establishment. Mayhall's redid themselves, remade themselves in so many ways. Baracco, South American Food up on Madison, and of course Paisley Monkey expanded as well. So significant vitality, very organic, and all reflective of the marketplace that exists here. Very exciting for Lakewood. We can't, of course, go an hour or so in Lakewood City Hall without thinking about the importance of public safety. I think we all acknowledge that there's nothing we could do that would overcome a sense of insecurity should we have it. So being safe and feeling safe is integral to every aspect of our strategies. City Council's commitment to maintaining full strength in the budget was no small challenge this year, and we have maintained our full safety forces of 94 sworn officers, 87 firefighters, and EMS, emergency medical technicians as well. And that allows us to have remarkably and robust speed of response. We had a fire earlier, this past weekend. The response time from dispatch to arrival on scene was 45 seconds by our first fire truck. I would say our Tier 1 dispatch records, which are our most challenging public safety issues in Lakewood, average about 3 minutes 4 seconds from the time dispatch connects to a police car to when that car arrives on scene. Not only do we have our first officer there in 3 minutes 4 seconds, generally right after that is car number 2, 3, and sometimes 4. So one of the keys to our success is not only speed of response, but an overwhelming strength of response. And time again, we're able to use that strength to make the appropriate public safety moves happen and protect our interests. It's a big deal, and I appreciate the Council's support to maintain that budget integrity in this challenging time. Now, in your seats, you will see a list of our objectives for 2013, and also on the backside are 2 graphs. The graphs actually tell a fairly challenging story. They tell a story of a budget that's at 2002 budget levels, rolling back 10 years of revenue growth in the city. So how do you run a city that has experienced that kind of revenue challenge? Well, you've got to examine every process you have and look at how you conduct your business. And we've adopted a process and tools that have been well proven by the manufacturing world and commercial institutions throughout the world, including a lean initiative, which identifies waste in 8 categories, uses direct observation, uses common sense and operator experience as the tools to maintain improvements, and also Six Sigma, which looks for methods to control variation of outcome. Those are well-designed tools. A little challenging to adapt them to government, but frankly, we're meeting with great success in doing that. We had 4 new teams launched just this afternoon on some very important subjects that will allow us to move with greater speed, lower cost, and improve services to you. Now, one of the key elements to our success has been the reestablishment of a significant technology base. Now, the Gamewell box you see here is not our new technology. Those who grew up in Lakewood would remember these well. That was the old semi-mechanical system that was how we triggered an alarm, particularly for fire here in Lakewood. Well, actually in April 4th, we will be going live with a state-of-the-art dispatch and public communication radio system that does 2 things. One, last year at this time I announced the challenge of the Federal Communication Commission's mandate to us to become a narrow-banded operation, which we now are. But I think the more exciting and compelling aspect of this investment is interoperability. The holy grail of September 11th, 2001 was basically the massive assembly of jurisdictions of public safety forces from a variety of different platforms, and how they could arrive on a scene as chaotic as New York would have been, as it was, and be able to communicate effectively to leverage each other's was a recognition that we had a long way to go in the United States. And from that moment till now, Lakewood has been working towards its objective of interoperability. On April 4th, a police officer and a firefighter in Lakewood will have on their hip a radio that will talk to almost anyone in the country. They can go downstate by frequency. They will be interoperable with the City of Cleveland. They will be interoperable with the State Patrol, Metro Parks, Parma, and I think eventually all the West Shore suburbs as well will come onto the same broad-based background. So I'm very excited about the advancement of public safety, both to the officers and firefighters who are involved, but also to the ability to attract citizens and allow us to protect them. We have $130,000 worth of PCs on desktops, common platform for the first time in about 11 years that allows us to more effectively train our workforce, which is integral to our speed and lean initiatives. And finally, we have an internal platform called SharePoint. It's a Microsoft platform that allows us to have a common place to place the massive amount of data that we collect over decades, that we draw upon, and experiences we learn that we need to be able to search and share so that we can leverage the 100 years of Lakewood development thinking more effectively to make sure we make good moves going forward. This tool allows us to put these all this intelligence that we have in one place, be able to find it quickly and use it more effectively. Another major initiative of this past year was the reformulation of the community vision. And this is an important element when we consider commercial development and particularly the impact on residential communities. Our community vision has several major subsets. It has a commercial development dimension, a community wellness dimension, it has an education and culture dimension, housing, mobility, and safety. And so asking citizens, in fact about 130 of them would weigh in over a period of 17 workshops to think long and deep about how those subjects fit into Lakewood was a very productive effort. More to go. City Council now has that document. They will add their wisdom and experience to it as well. And we will view this as a live document. It will guide the Planning Commission going forward as we make critical investments in our future. It was an important update, and we'll benefit from that. So let's talk a little bit about the pressures. We have some headwinds. Last year we talked about the Environmental Protection Agency and their view of the world, particularly the 1976 Clean Water Act. And if you remember, one of the dramas for a city like Lakewood built 100 years ago, that when we had these massive rainstorms, the capacity to handle that rainwater was limited. And the axiom 100 years ago was a solution to pollution was dilution. And the dilution factor was the city of Lake Erie. And so we have a system that was designed to absorb certain amounts of rainwater, but when it hit certain limits, it would then reroute that water to Lake Erie. And of course, nobody benefits more from a clean Lake Erie than Lakewood. So the question is, what can we do to improve our performance and also do it in a rational way that's affordable to us? I'm very happy to tell you that after a significant amount of work by a large number of folks in our government, we have reached an agreement with the United States EPA, and it's important to emphasize United States EPA because there's an Ohio EPA that we are also talking with. And the U.S. EPA has given us an administrative order which tells us we have to do certain things which we agree to do, and we in fact do agree. And the important element of the administrative order is it's not a judicial order. Many of the suburban communities around us have found themselves under a federal court order. And that's a whole order, a different order of magnitude of how we can and should behave. But this is a much more productive way for us to go. So we're very pleased to make headway on this critical element. But nevertheless, regulatory expectations are challenging. This picture shows a wall going up in a Habitat for Humanity house that was built up on Dowd. A significant portion of the money that was used to build this house was federal money that came through block grants and neighborhood preservation initiatives. But those, as a function of sequester, have been reduced significantly over the years, and this year, no different. We look at about a 5% additional loss. In 2009, we had $2.4 million to bring to bear on some of our at-risk elements in our community. In 2013, we see $1.6 million as our best hope. So that's a pressure on us. But I would say the biggest threat and challenge we have comes from our own State House, both at the governor's level and the General Assembly. Frankly, at the 2011 budget, cities across Ohio were given a very significant reduction of traditional revenues that had served from the State House to the city halls since 1935. And for Lakewood, that was a $1.7 million reduction that came into its full effect this year. Additionally, that law eliminated the estate tax, which came into its full effect January 1st of this year. So we woke up frankly, with about a $3 million loss. By the way, there was some additional commercial activity tax reductions as a part of the state's moves. So we looked at a world that had $3 million in less revenues. And the graph you have in the back sort of tells that story. That is the key element of the driver of the world we face coming into 2013. Now, that wasn't a surprise to us. We fully expected it. We anticipated it. We worked hard on trying to get there. But nevertheless, that kind of pressure is difficult. And our council worked hard through very challenging budget processes last year and this year to right-size the ship, and they did a terrific job doing so. Now, many believe, and I share this belief, that frankly there's an overarching strategy at play where cities are being starved into submission with an attempt to basically force us into mergers and shared services. Frankly, not a bad idea, mergers, shared services, if they make sense, but frankly, this is not the way to go about it. So in a very short amount of time, we had to make some adjustments, and we've been able to do that with some significant effort. Now, you all remember last November. It's sort of shocking to every mayor in the region now to think that we have a hurricane file. It's not something that existed anywhere in the city of Lakewood files. We had tornado files, we had massive storm files, but not a hurricane file. Well, we know that many citizens in Lakewood lost power for up to 7 days. And part of the drama is that these storms seem to be unabiding in their impact. In fact, 4 of the 10 biggest storms that have occurred in the United States have occurred since 2004. So not only do we have a magnitude issue, we have a velocity issue and maybe even a frequency issue, which is very concerning to all of us. And we also have a very fragile public power grid. It was built in a different era, and it becomes harder to maintain and then harder to patch. And of course, that hits us hard in communities. And we are committed to working with First Energy, along with our West Shore suburb colleagues, my fellow neighbors to the west, to organize our pressure and our expectations to get appropriate investment. But it's going to be a challenge as well. So let's talk about priorities. Let's take a moment, and final moment, to look ahead at what we see. Now, I mentioned that we had to right-size the ship. We've done that. But frankly, it doesn't mean we fit well in these new clothes. I think we have to learn to be very good at this new level. So we're very challenged to learn to do our work on behalf of you with fewer resources and be very effective at it. And we have a great deal of a focus on how to improve those processes. The Lean Initiative I talked earlier is one of the main elements of that. You know, we look at a world, not only in government, but everywhere, going back to the 50s, when you look at the car companies where they had very complex organizations and simple jobs. And City Hall wasn't too different. In our new world, just like the car factories, is a much simpler organization with much more complex jobs. So a key element of our success there is effective training and good tools for our operators, our workforce. Housing will remain an exciting, challenging conversation for us as our houses move into their 2nd century. Now, you see a picture of the Abode's investment along the corner of Salone. It's a $7 million investment, 17 units. All have been sold. Actually, phase 2 is about to begin on the old Irish cottage side. That side has been, frankly, in an abandoned state for pretty close to 20 years or more. And so here you have vertical living in small space, and they're all sold. And the interesting thing is, I think of the 17 that have purchased on the phase 1 side, only 2 of them came from Lakewood. So 15 families had a clear choice to want to move to Lakewood, but they weren't so interested in the 100-year-old house. They really wanted this fairly modern house. So the point is, we have a challenge to create a diversity of choices, both in terms of lifestyles, but also as we grow it, our family needs change and our physical needs change as well. So that remains a challenge for us. Now, automation of recycling has been an aspiration. We're pleased to say that we're going to begin to experiment with the blue cans. About a third of the city will receive these cans over this next summer. They'll be scattered throughout the city. And I think you can appreciate this is a challenge in a community that parks along its streets. And if you've got a 40-foot lot and you have 2 cans to pick up from that house, you need a long arm reaching across, how do you have enough space to do it? And frankly, it's our sense that many streets, not all, may have to have parking bans for certain hours 1 day a week while we pick up these cans, perhaps from 8:30 to 2. And we're studying how to do that, to make that fair, how to communicate that well. But the key element will be more recycling, because it'll be easier, and that's certainly a very important sustainable initiative. And it will also be a very significant improvement of a fairly complex operation. So we look to roll that out over the next 3 years, so stay tuned to a blue can coming near you. New water meters. Now there is an exciting subject. I know that you all came here primarily to hear about the water meters. But let me tell you about automated water systems. These will be read from a cell tower. And what that means is we buy water from the city of Cleveland and redistribute it to you. And frankly, when something goes wrong, such as a leak, we're basically spilling water or money underground. And obviously, we create some infrastructure issues, but we also waste money. This system will allow us to monitor flow through the city and detect, even on your side of the meter, if we see a dramatic change in consumption in your house. We'll be able to call you and say, geez, you better check something. Is there a toilet running, or you have a leak in a pipe that's costing you money? Likewise, if it's on our side of the meter, it's costing us, and frankly, as citizens, it's costing you too money. So we look forward to automating not only the process of managing water, but also catching problems earlier and saving costs. And geographical information system mapping is a tool that we'll be using more heavily, sharing information to you to allow you to understand the complexity of what's going on, and also help us to think more thoroughly about our city. I'm also very pleased to announce tonight that those of you who have smartphones, My Lakewood application. So if you go to onelakewood.com tonight or tomorrow or anytime, you can get the instructions on how to download this. This will allow you to function, frankly, as our eyes and ears. Using your smartphone, you will be able to take a picture of a concern you have, whether it's a house, a pothole, a sidewalk, or graffiti, or whatever it is that's on your mind. That photograph will be recorded with a geographic information coding. We will know exactly where you were when you took that photograph. You'll have a choice of either writing in a message or using a 10-second voicemail message, and then directing that concern complaint to a choice of departments that you have. What it'll allow us to do is more effectively see what you saw, allow us to more effectively respond to it, and also, if you choose to, give us your email response or text response, your phone number. We can get back to you and tell you what we're doing about that problem. So it's a way to work together to more effectively spot problems and take action. And frankly, with our pressures that we have in our workforce, your help is needed, and this tool will help us. So stay tuned, look for it, and start using it. Now, in Lakewood, there's nothing more important to us than our shared space, and nothing is more featured than our parks. 75 acres of parks. With council support, we look forward to $400,000 of upgrades at Madison Park this year. And working with council, I look forward to figuring how we can best spend some one-time money we have from leftover projects of several $100,000 in our other parks. And we have so limited opportunities to make these kind of investments, and they're so important to us that we have to be very thoughtful about it. And I know that council will be every bit of that. But certainly lake access, better lake access, Kaufman Park Master Plan proposals, features there, perhaps some upgrades to Lakewood Park Pool, other things are on our minds, and we look forward to increasing the quality of our shared space. Now, another key dimension of our compliance is basically how water moves off your property to our pipes in our streets. This is called source control. And in our commitment to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, we agreed that we would create some pilot programs where we would make sure that every house in a certain controlled area would be connected properly. Connected properly should look like this picture, where storm goes into storm, sanitary goes into sanitary. And we have certain areas of town where we can monitor effectively before conditions and after conditions. And this test will allow us to determine the effective volume and a correct volume in the correct pipe. It allows us to determine the cost of compliance from the source, your house, to the street, and also the complexity of that undertaking. And that is a key element of our plans to comply with the Clean Water Act. So that we announced tonight that this summer we're going to be launching a pilot study in Lakewood in about a 4 or 5 street area to, in fact, get to know, improve to ourselves and hopefully the EPA that this, in fact, is a key element of our strategy long term. So stand by for more details on that. Now, since we met last, 2 big events happened. The Supreme Court made a ruling on many of the aspects of the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare. And we had a major referendum, a presidential election. We had 2 candidates with divergent views of Affordable Care Act. Well, we know that the Supreme Court affirmed a good portion of that act, and we know that the election chose a president that supports that act. So the fact of the matter is, as we look to 2027 and beyond, and it's important to think in terms of the specter of that length of time, that we have to take into the major shifts that are ahead when we move from acute care, where you're sick and you're in a bed, to basically preventive care. And if you are sick, you very likely may be in a bed, but it may be your home bed. And the implications of a health system that delivers that kind of service versus one that was built in Lakewood 80 years ago. The trustees of Lakewood have taken upon themselves to consider these issues very thoroughly and very seriously. And it's important that we begin to think about 2027, because that's when the lease ends with the clinic. And we do not want to begin this complex conversation with just a few years, because we think this is pretty big, pretty important, and all doable. And time is our ally if we begin now. So that conversation is clearly upon Lakewood. And remember, Lakewood is very unique in that we own the hospital. One of the rare situations in this region where the city government owns the hospital. So that makes us certainly have a stake in the game in a very significant way. So what's ahead in a very big way? We know we've had enormous success on Detroit. And we know that $15 million worth of public money has leveraged roughly $60 million worth of private money on Detroit. We believe that we are right to duplicate that kind of success on Madison. We're going to start off with a $2.4 million resurfacing of Madison in 2014-15, and we hope to leverage $250,000 of public money for storefront renovation. We hope to work hard to attract new businesses to that commercial corridor and bolster the ones that are there. There's no doubt that Madison, while it's different in its feel and its complexity and its texture, can be equally as successful as Detroit. And obviously Lakewood would be well served to have two very vibrant commercial corridors. We clearly have the capacity for it. So we've built the foundation. We have great tools. We're pretty focused on the things we think that really will make a difference for us. And our challenge really is to keep our nose to the grindstone as a government and deliver success on these key elements. And we're very determined to do that. And I will also say that in my roughly almost 2.5 years as mayor, I have had the opportunity to meet with mayors all over this region. And I also have increasingly met with mayors across the state. And I tell you and remind you that what we have, they desire. We have a community that was built in a pre-car era, which now folks are working hard to try and figure out how to create that environment. We have a vibrancy of young folks that makes our median age one of the lowest, if not the lowest in the county and in the state. We have wonderful housing stock that has received significant investment by its private owners and has every expectation of having a 200 or 300 year life. And we have a location that puts us close to just about everything. So when I think about what other mayors have to face with the challenges that we have, and they're facing these same challenges, I have to tell you, we have so many more levers to pull in this town. And I am ever so grateful to be engaged with a government that has the capacity, not only that you bring as citizens, but in terms of all the virtues and strengths that we have. So whatever we choose to do, I'm confident we're going to be able to deliver a better Lakewood going forward. So buckle your seatbelt. Good news ahead. So that concludes my remarks. I'd love to have a chance to hear questions or comments from all of you.